Well, good evening, horror lovers. Welcome back if you are here. Well, but of course you know why you are here. You love to feel fear out from our nightmares. I am Lord Amos, your host for Colectivo Paranoia. And today I bring to you a story of my creation, in which a horrible but really common situation in a big city suffers a metamorphosis and transforms in a ghoulish child's play. You will find the credits for the music on the video's description. Beelzebub's son. "The money or your life!" exclaimed the robber to Daniel, who immediately produced his wallet from his pants pocket. Without thinking ahead properly, Daniel instinctively checked his wallet in order to get his voter's ID before giving the wallet away, because recovering an official document in Mexico City, in spite of being completely possible, goes without mention with a lot of bureaucratic paperwork. As he noticed this, the thug's face changed instantly to reveal anger and spite, to which he followed with a fast arm movement, hitting Daniel's face with the gun he was holding, hitting this way Daniel's nose and making him bleed profusely, bathing his neck, face, shirt and the pavement, in which he fell to his knees with his blood, while desperately moving his mouth like a fish out of the water, while spitting out a mixture of blood and spit, trying to avoid puking at all costs in order to prevent the sharp pain to become, if possible, even more unbearable. Daniel was a tall young man with a tough constitution who posed with a smug demeanor, energetic and cynical. To him it was habitual to go to the gym to work in his body as well as to practice amateur boxing. His aggressor looked instead older, though at least 3 inches smaller, and thinner to a point of malnutrition. He seemed muscular, but being this something noticeable due to his thinness. Regardless, Daniel was neither ashamed nor surprised when he fell to his knees after receiving the incredibly heavy gun butt impact over his nose, checking firsthand just how wrong the idea of checking his wallet was. "Don't try to be a fucking smartass, man. Give me the wallet without taking anything from it." The thin bandit, who in spite of his sickly appearance was acting empowered by the sole fact of being aiming a gun to Daniel. When he heard this, Daniel, who was still feeling as if the skin on the area where he was injured was burning, he was feeling how the blood was flowing from inside his nose to his face on the exterior and interiorly, flowing backwards towards his throat, flooding his mouth with the salty metallic liquid, forcing him to swallow the excess, making him struggle as well in order to prevent himself from vomiting. Nevertheless, Daniel had smiled to the thug, while trying to hide his intentions, as Daniel was debating himself whether to follow his impulse, jumping towards his assailant, trying to disarm him and punch him with all his might until he were completely tired, not caring for the damage which he could have caused. Or, in the other hand, restrain himself from these impulses and just hand over his cell phone and wallet without further resistance. "Money, wallet and cell phone are yours. Just let me keep my voter's ID and my driver's license." Daniel chose the latter option, considering it could be more probable to let him walk away from this situation with his life, while he was still containing his desires to beat down the robber. He could not avoid thinking that, no matter how much experience he had fighting, nor how strong he was due to his gym training, or even how he had a natural talent for boxing, which had always made him think about going professional about this hobby, he still was reasonable enough to know he was not bulletproof. For a second, the silence between them was so dense it was palpable, while washing away the sound of the city which surrounded them. Down this lonely alleyway, where Daniel was dragged by the thief from the anonymous crowd of people flowing towards their homes, away from the abusive office hours at their respective works. This was a time in the day in which, in spite of a lot of people using the streets to return to their homes, as well as a lot of cars flowing slowly through the traffic, the city had been, for 2 hours already, completely covered with the darkness of the night, and just a handful of businesses dedicated to food and alcohol remained open in this day in the middle of the week. This was an opportunity for the lowlifes in the city to rob whoever was on the street, knowing most of these people would be honest, hard-working people going back to their houses, considering predating on the people who have the fortune of at least having in their pockets a minimum wage for the long hours of work, without mattering that this would come presented in the miserable format of a payment which little over what is most necessary to live can afford. This is the way in which Daniel fell in the claws of his assailant, in a situation which is even more common in the streets of this city than the rats that swarm the sewers near the undercities, ciudadelas, or favelas. From any city like this which concentrate extreme poverty and inhuman conditions, in places like that, places which are best left unseen by the rest of the people who can have a choice when it comes to clothing, education, health, nourishment, as if by turning their backs to the people trapped in such realities, they would disappear along with their concerns. Daniel handed his cell phone and wallet to the robber with a big smile painted across his face, with a bizarre mixture of irony and cynicism, while bitterly thinking in all the possible ways in which he could get rid of his assailant, if only there wasn't a gun involved in all this. He remembered how his colleagues at work had warned him that there had been several robberies around the area of Villaguapa, reason for which Daniel was regretting ignoring their advice, as the average Mexican does in the big city of Mexico, in spite of all the common hazards from insecurity found within the city, or as Daniel could usually do with the usual gossip in the office. This is how he had decided to walk back home by himself in spite of the time in the night. Little did he know of the robbery to which he had become the victim, nor of the disturbing events which were about to take place, changing this bad dream situation into a hellish nightmare. Dead people don't need the fucking voting ID, you son of a bitch. The thief answered Daniel, while grabbing Daniel's stuff. For a second they crossed sights, and the thief recognizing Daniel, whose ironic smile had a hidden significance, with the rage and hatred which could be seen in Daniel's eyes, who in turn was trying to disguise these feelings from his eyes, disguising them with a smile, altogether seeming to say, "I am holding myself." The thug looked away suddenly, for a brief moment feeling identified with his victim, as he was faced to hatred and repressed anger of someone who, grown in the streets and from the streets, learning to fight with tooth and nail, sometimes even to a literal extent. Daniel, who was still kneeling, perceived how the thief was hesitant in the moment that they crossed gazes, and made more palpable his decision by lifting his hands with the naked palms in front, placing them slowly behind his head, as it is done in the action movies when anyone tries to surrender. He kept looking directly at the thief while maintaining a faint smile across his face. The thug could not avoid smiling back to his victim while thinking to himself, "This guy's tough as nails too." In spite of having other victims, women who cried for mercy, men who pleaded while saying how they had their families to look after, needing the money which was being taken away from them. The thief had not felt an ounce of empathy to an extent in which he could even treat more violently his victims until this moment, in which he had found one who was consuming himself with the anger and hatred he had felt while growing up, the hate towards oppression, and the wishes to kill whoever could feel the right to step over oneself in their self-righteous superiority. While still aiming directly to Daniel's head, the thief started walking slowly backwards, without taking his eyes away from Daniel. After a couple of steps, he opened the wallet, took the money and credit cards from it, and drew the thin wallet to Daniel, containing still his credentials. The thug continued walking backwards while looking at Daniel, trying not to lose sight of him in case he tried to play the part of the hero, while still aiming towards him with his gun. He was about to get completely covered by the shadows of the deserted parking lot to which he was carefully walking away, when he unexpectedly bumped into something. He could not avoid feeling surprise as he had previously checked the alleyway before robbing Daniel, trying to avoid any obstacle and knowing that this alley was seldom used by anyone right at this time. Nevertheless, the thing with which he bumped was not even remotely something small, as it had a height that covered up to his waist, and felt consistently solid as an object that it seemed unlikely not to have been noticed, just as if he were stumbling upon a 5-foot trash can or a person who could be sitting or kneeling. But this was ridiculous, as he knew beforehand that they were completely alone. He came to a full stop, trying as hard as he could not to fall to the ground, turning his head away from Daniel to see with what he had stumbled. As Daniel noticed the possible opportunity, he moved fast his hands to the ground, preparing to leap towards the thug. As he noticed the fast motion, the thief turned once again, aiming towards Daniel as he screamed, "Don't you dare move, you fucking asshole, 'cause you are leaving over time." My, what an interesting show, said a firm voice in an impossible tone, as if this was a vocal kaleidoscope of different hues. The tonality was not uncomfortable by itself. It was mellow, almost melodically so, but it was clearly disturbing, regardless of its musicality. It had a soft tempo and an adequate volume to be heard without being too loud. Still, it mixed in between each word, at some of them at the same time, the tone of voice of a mature man, the tone of voice of an elder person which was undistinguishable from an old man or a woman, and the tone of a young woman. The contrast between each tonality was completely absurd and unthinkable, as it was spoken without any apparent pause, which could suggest a coordinated effort performed by 3 different persons who would have practiced the simple phrase which had been spoken, instead suggesting, with each word and its coherent absence of pauses, a fluent single-minded coordinated speech. Nevertheless, its impossibility, the voice was real, and it presented itself with its musicality as if it came from the depths of a nightmare, performed by someone who could not attempt to disguise its disturbing nature. Daniel and the thief turned their heads immediately to face the persons producing such voice, which proceeded exactly from the place from which the thug had been about to trip. Both of them frozen in place due to the effect of the dissonant voice which seemed to have spoken to some place deep inside of them, a primitive place hidden within the layers of the brain common to men and animal alike, a place which could push us to accept the ominous and certain destiny of a prey in front of a predator. It was as if both of them would have been transported from the streets near Villacuapa Market to be taken deep into a shark-infested ocean. Before them, they could see a kid of about 10 or 11 years of age, just about 4 feet tall, in a visible state of malnourishment, apparent through his thinness, dark skin which was at some parts of the neck and face covered with scars of dirt. He was dressed with an old Mexican soccer jersey, dirty to a disgusting point, which was worn over some shorts of the same decadent condition, as well as some worn-off sandals. Even though the kid could be visually disgusting to many people, this was the usual appearance of most of the children who could suffer from the extreme poverty which the people of scarce resources could be pushed in cities all over the world, where a brand new cell phone would seem to matter much more than the people living in this condition. These people would usually have destined for their lives, providing they do not die due to their circumstances, either the way of the prostitution or that of the criminal, if not both, without having any other apparent possibility at hand to survive. Such was something well known by the thief who had assaulted Daniel. The kid smiled to both of them, revealing as he observed them something which was even more unpleasant than his nightmarish voice. His eyes were completely black on its entirety. There were no pupils nor sclera, just a couple of black spheres bordered by their eyelids. Both of them, petrified by fear, felt the adrenaline in their bodies being pumped by their hearts through their bloodstream in a futile attempt of self-preservation which ordered them to run away from the unknown danger. Nevertheless, their legs seemed to have been nailed to the ground below them. They gazed puzzled towards the kid, who had his face fixed towards them in silence, without moving a single muscle, not even to blink or to breathe. That brief moment seemed to get extended to an eternity, as the kid just kept looking to an undetermined point between them, as there were no bubbles to determine this exactly. Could it be that the kid was staring directly to Daniel? Could his glance be fixed over the thief? Or, given its inherent impossibility, could it be that his eyes were looking directly to both of them at the same time? Have the cat got your tongue, you little mice? Said the kid with his spectral voices. I saw you both having a splendid time from far away, and decided to join the fun. Fear, as we observed in this scene, is a basic instinct of human nature. This may expose either what is best or what is worst from men. People who face their fears may grow and mature from this strife, attaining values such as bravery, integrity, strength, and wisdom. Therefore, bravery means having enough willpower to face fear regardless of being exposed in the face of danger. Still, fear itself pushes humans to perform as well the most heinous acts imaginable, following orders or reacting violently towards that which is not known, feared, and hated. The kid knew, savored, and enjoyed these situations surrounding the human condition. He loves to play with the limits of what is known and unknown, what is feared, what is hated, and with the possibilities given when altering any of the factors present on any given equation which focus on fear and hate. It is a game to him. It is a game which might even sound familiar to you. It does not go really far away from playing with the lives of those you could consider inferior to your condition as a human. Pretty much like the kids would do when playing with ants and the magnifying glass under the rays of the sun, or those shows which you might probably enjoy there where you live. Being them dog fights, rooster fights, or that lovely party celebrated between the bull and the bullfighter. We love those games, don't we? That is why the evil smile of the kid was dressed with a sinister sincerity from the pleasure it was to taste their fear. The fear which was destroying the nerves of Daniel and the thief got the worst out of the latter, who, still feeling empowered while wielding the pistol, started to direct himself towards the kid, trying to hit him even harder than he had done with Daniel, as he screamed to the kid, "I'm gonna kill you, you son of a bitch!" I said he tried because this simple but brutal action was never performed, as the thief could not move a single muscle. This let them know that, to finish shredding their nerves, fear was not the only thing keeping them in place, as neither arms nor legs could answer to their will at that moment, even though they maintained the strength to keep them standing or kneeling. "You really thought you could actually do something to me?" As he was finishing saying this, the kid pulled his head backwards as he laughed aloud with his 3 spectral voices. The thief, who was outright terrorized at this point, held his pistol towards the kid while screaming, "What the hell are you?" "That is precisely my home. But not only that. For today I give you the privilege to actually deal, as none of you maggots have ever done, with true royalty. My father is the king of the flies, so you could as well try a bit to have some courtesy. Though I really have no interest in you, you know," the boy said as he continued giggling softly. "Such an unfortunate situation, Daniel. Taking a shortcut to your house, you find yourself being assaulted and mocked from the scarce pavement from your labor, only to confirm that the rumors in your office about the robberies performed around here were true. I do admire that mixture of being brave and stupidly naive. Did you think you lived on Denmark?" the kid said as he interrupted himself once more with his ghoulish laughter. "What do you want from me?" asked Daniel, who for a brief moment felt more intrigued than scared. "Oh, I want it all. But more than that, I just wanted to come and play with you. Such a fine young man from a good family, freshly graduated from an accountant career, leaving the nest of your family to embrace adulthood. Strong and dynamic athlete. A boxer nonetheless, with a weakness for girls. You possess an immaturity that does not cease to be tenderly idealistic towards the world you live in. There with your broken nose stripped away from your hard-earned money or credit cards, knowing that in the following days you would be disputing with yourself which could overcome. The pride which prevents you from asking for help considering it a weakness, or your hunger." The kid's calm voice was at that point interrupted by the thief, who felt again a surge of bravado and started screaming, "I'm gonna kill you, motherfucker!" He could not finish properly, as his head was projected backwards with much strength, just as if an invisible force had punched him right in the middle of his face. At the same time, blood propelled from his mouth and nose, as if he had been transformed into a fountain of blood. "Who the fuck said you could talk again? You've only forced me to balance the scales," said the kid, who was grimacing in the direction of the thief, with the most genuine and natural expression of hatred and anger which a human face could produce. This grimace was only maintained for a fraction of a second, after which the kid turned to face Daniel once again, who remained surprised with his mouth wide open, while he did not flex a single muscle to a point which he was even holding his breath. while looking at the kid, who again was wearing a mask of composure, with a faint friendly smile, a way too uneasily friendly smile. Your soul, Daniel, as the tacky cliché would suggest according to your vox populi, from your disgusting culture. That is what I want indeed. Oh Christian, oh exemplar citizen, oh you philanthropic and care-giving soul, you disgust me. The kid grimaced once again while saying this. But today I will show you that all that is a bullshit costume, with which you try to avoid your own nature as perhaps you have always known, right in the bottom of your rotten consciousness. You hypocrite. Come on. What I want is to see what you really are, what you really desire. The kid stretched his hand to the front, like pointing out towards the thief, as if trying to show something. I offer you, Daniel, a place of privilege in hell, a place near me and my father, a place as a torturer and not as a victim, a place within the Legion. You just have to yield to that which is blazing in your heart. The kid said this while fashioning a movement of the same hand, as if indicating Daniel to stand up, who immediately stood up, not like a normal person would, but instead as if he were being pulled by invisible strings, as if he were a puppet. The kid pointed once again to the thief, who was still coughing up blood from his recently fractured nose. Without wanting to, I will help you out a bit with this game. But it's all fault of these classless, visceral people. I cannot have much patience towards such nasty, crass and impulsive people regardless of their insignificance, you know. Anyhow, the only two things you need to know to play my game are the following. First of all, take on consideration that no direct consequence from your human loss to your insect-like life would befall on your person after whatever may happen here. I could even give you my word as a superior being that nothing which you would decide to leave behind on this alley could be ever found by human hands. As he said this, the kid gave a big smile to Daniel and continued. The second thing you have to know is just an itsy-bitsy little pathetic fact, which makes all the difference to you. I don't even have to stick my noses to know the desired effect could be caused after revealing this little secret, which could benefit your position immediately from revealing it. You see, this little piece of information is nothing else than the fact that that gun, which is wielded by that man, has no bullets whatsoever loaded to it. Have fun. The panic which had struck down Daniel, with the ghastly apparition of the kid as well as the assault prior to that, was instantly forgotten, making way to a burning rage which made Daniel leap towards his original assailant, as if he were playing rugby, making him fall with the weight of his own body. As he fell, the thief landed with the back of his neck making a hollow knocking sound when his head hit the ground. Dropping the pistol, which fell about 10 inches away from the fight, Daniel climbed fast over the thief sitting over his chest as he grabbed with both hands the head of the thief, giving him scarce time to even breathe. He lifted the thief's head and smashed it with all his might against the ground once and again. The thief, who started the night as a hunter, could now only fathom the great effort which meant to try to breathe, while his life was being taken away with each hit, as he was only able to produce muffled screams behind the blood pool which was forming in his throat. He was still alive when Daniel stopped smashing his head against the floor, like if his own resilience was pushed over the limits by the same demonical forces which had sealed the alley from the perception of any pedestrian, There was no solace as he felt how Daniel's thumbs slowly sunk onto his eyes, producing an unpleasant sensation aside from the excruciating pain as his eyes exploded, moistening his face with a mixture of bitterest humor and blood. At the same time he was howling in pain, drilling into the apparent silence of the night. The screams of the thief only fueled the reward center inside Daniel's brain as he was submitting himself to the most primitive impulses, thriving in anger and exalted by the fight or flight reflex as his heart pounded like a fierce drum, pumping adrenaline to his whole body, now flowing with fury as Daniel was slaughtering the thief with the unstoppable frenzy of someone who is a slave to an animal impulse. From the withered body of the thief, only some whimpering was being produced while he was softly convulsing in what could normally mean the less muscular reflexes of a dead body. Daniel, who was still suffering from bloodlust, took the empty pistol from the ground near him, the same weapon which had broken his nose some moments before, and, holding it with both hands over his head, he started hitting the thief's already injured face with a gun spot over and over again, until this became a bloody, unrecognizable pulp which had little to no resemblance to a human face. Daniel was breathing heavily and accelerated as he was trying to relax, as he was looking incredulous to the thief's lifeless body below him. Daniel felt the burning hand being placed over his right shoulder at the same time in which he heard the three voices speaking to him, at the same time feeling a freezing fear which penetrated deep into his bone marrow. "I am pleased by your sacrifice. You will be welcomed to my world in due time, my new Cain," the three voices said calmly as the burning warmth from the demon's hand suddenly ascended to an unbearable point, making Daniel flinch. As Daniel pulled away, he pulled his shirt neck to the right side, revealing an X-mark scar in his right shoulder, which resembled the marks of cattle, to which he gasped and managed to stutter. What? The pain was anesthetized by the overwhelming realization of all that happened, as he could not believe the brutal way in which he had slaughtered his assailant. He suddenly felt sick, as if his own consciousness was little by little waking up to the realization of what just happened, staining with the blood of the martyred not only his hands, but his own mind. Daniel was already weeping uncontrollably. "Let me introduce you to Angel, the brother you never met, product of the dark secret of your mother, which she kept in a prison of shame, as she was constantly being incestuously raped during most of her teenage years. Angel worked tirelessly every day robbing little shits like you to pay an experimental treatment for leukemia." The devil laughed with his three voices discreetly and then continued. Little did he know such treatment was about to be effective. Little does it matter now. The kid started walking away towards the shadows of the parking lot, reaching a point in which there was no light. From this point, Daniel did not see the kid again, and only was he certain that the boy had left when, after hearing the laughter with the three voices once again, the kid bid farewell by saying, "We'll see you soon, new Cain." The truth about the thief left profound holes in the mind of Daniel, who, feeling completely destroyed from the inside, found it hard to push his will to walk away from the alley and regain the control of his life. He tried to continue on silently, fearing that at any point the police would show to his house and would make him pay for his crime. But the devil said the truth. No one came after him afterwards. No news were released about the grisly murder committed in that alley. No one even continued talking about the robberies near Villacuapa. It felt like a long succession of hollow days, each with less meaning than the previous day in what seemed to Daniel like an eternity. Until 2 weeks after the incident, Daniel shared his long-lost brother's fate as he hung himself in a dirty room of a motel. Just as you who received this story, you questioned your morals and ethics for a murder which you thought to be justifiable. You desired it, and you were savoring it with the demise of the nameless thug, with no past, no glories, just as you would always desire towards that which you judge out of ignorance, out of hatred, out of fear. This is the way we have always liked to play, because we love your faces when you realize things like this. Perhaps some other day you will be ready to play with my son and me. We'll see you soon. I thank you all for letting us enter in that which is most sacred and personal to you, your houses, your ears, your minds. I truly thank you for letting me play with them. It is always a pleasure to share terrors, to make you think, to make you reason about them. The frailty of all that which matters to us humans is an attribute which grants it an inherent beauty to all those things we value the most. Do not take anything or anyone for granted, but enjoy it all. If you like this story, like, share, and subscribe, for we are just getting started. Look for us in Twitter, Facebook, Horror Amino, and Horror Writer Amino. We are Colectivo Paranoia. In the end, we woke up and realized we were never there.